Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Church in Eugene, where, empowered by love, we transform ourselves and serve our world. My name is Joanna Alexander. My pronouns are she and her. With me today are our minister, Reverend Jen Youngsun, interim director of faith formation, Sarah Sauter, collaborative keyboardist, Suzanne Giordano, and working sort of behind the scenes or not, Izzy Kreka, our congregational administrator. We gather in worship to find meaning and to live more deeply. Worship creates connections within, among, and beyond us, calling us to our better selves, calling us to live with wisdom and compassion. Whoever you are, whomever you love, whatever your image of the holy, we're glad you're here. If you're visiting us today, we'd love to hear from you and invite you to fill out the visitor form as you feel called. The link is being dropped into chat now.
Good Sunday morning, everyone. I'm the Reverend Jen Youngsun, and I use the pronouns she and her. We are opening the church. Starting next Sunday, February the 20th, we will be holding in-person worship services along with this Zoom webinar. Let's all remember that we're still in this pandemic, and even though the case numbers have dropped below the extreme levels, they are still very high. So all of the safety guidelines that we mailed to you are still in effect for now. I'm going to stay on for coffee hour at the end of service to answer any questions you might have. So the next announcement is for our youngest UUs, ages 1 to 17. I know you're out there. It's time to create some wonderful art for our 9th annual March Youth Art Show. It's going to be all online this year, and you can find out more information about this and many other events in your weekly Connections email. And now, a quick message from Kitty Carlisle.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Kitty Carlisle. My pronouns are she and her. Hey, whoa, hey, don't you go out and get that coffee. You come back here and listen. This is important. I'm here to talk about General Assembly, or GA. As you know, our church is a member of the Unitarian Universalist Association, and GA is our annual meeting. This year, it's happening June 22nd to June 26th, right here in Portland. All sorts of fun things happen at GA. We have socials, discussions, vote on legislation, take part in informational panels. There will be all manner of groups, including gardening, social justice causes, birding, and book clubs. No matter what, you'll find somebody out there that shares your interest. The reason I'm bringing you this information right now is there's a lower early bird rate available now through the end of February. There are also discounts for youth and other underrepresented people, but you have to visit the UUA website to get the details. I'm dropping that link into the chat. So you can go there and find out all about stuff. And you'll also find a link for volunteering at GA in the same space. Another reason to talk about this today is that the UUA board will be holding webinars on our legislation, bylaws changes, and procedures throughout the month of March. If you register, you'll get links for those in your registration materials. GA doesn't get this close to us very often, and this will be the first live GA we've had in over 2 years. It's going to be a real celebration. I hope you can come along and join us.
A flame with a chalice is a primary symbol of the Unitarian Universalist faith tradition. Many of our congregations kindle a flaming chalice in gatherings and worships and features a chalice symbol prominently. Hans Dutch, an Austrian artist, first brought together the chalice and the flame as a Unitarian symbol during his work with the Unitarian Service Committee during World War II. Some of the many different meanings that Unitarian Universalists hold today for the flaming chalice are the light of reason, the warmth of community, and the flame of hope. The words of the chalice lighting today are taken from the UUA hymnal, number 434. May we kindle here the light of our highest aspirations and be inspired to bring our gifts of love and service to the altar of humanity. May we know once again that we are not isolated beings, but connected to mystery and miracle, to the universe, to this community, and to each other. And now, let's say together the words of our mission, which affirm our shared purpose. Empowered by love, we transform ourselves and serve our world.
As we gradually return to this church building, we remember that everything in this place preaches our gospel, our good news, not just the sermon, but also our songs and our stories. The artwork on the walls preach our gospel, the banners, the flags, the posters, even the blueberry bushes outside and the Conestoga huts and the birdhouses and the donation box in the hall, they all preach. And of course, each one of you, in your actions, in your speaking, in your service, preach the Unitarian Universalist gospel, the good news that all are worthy of love, no exceptions. Come, let us love one another. Come, let us worship together. Before we move into a time of meditation and prayer, I want to remind you that you can let the ministry team know of your joys and your sorrows. We'll follow up with you, and then we'll ask if you want these to be shared with the congregation. To submit your joys and sorrows, you can follow this link that I'm putting in the chat right now. There you go. The meditation prayer that we have been practicing this season is from the Buddhist tradition. It's called metta, which is a Pali word meaning loving kindness and benevolence. As you are willing and able, please find a comfortable position and close your eyes. First, bring attention to yourself. Fill your heart with compassion and love for yourself, for you are worthy to be loved. And say to yourself, may I be happy. May I be well. May I be at ease. And now bring to your attention those closest to you, your family, your friends, loved ones. We bring to mind our parents and our children, our grandchildren and our partners, those especially who are needing some extra love today. This morning, I want to lift up all in our church community who are recovering from surgery or illness. Our own Kat Johnson is out today, as you have noticed, and she may be for the next few weeks with a health situation. She's resting well and being really well taken care of. So please don't call her because she's trying to get as much rest as possible, but certainly cards and emails will be most welcome. So bring all of those people into mind, especially those who need a little extra care today. See their faces, say their names. May they be happy. May they be well. May they be at ease. And now bring to your mind our neighbors whom we don't know yet or know very little. Neighbors in our city, neighbors in our state, our nation, our world. May they be happy. May they be well. May they be at ease. And now bring to mind all the beings on this planet Earth, all the living creatures. May they be happy. May they be well. May they be at ease. And if I have hurt anyone, knowing or unknowingly, in thought, in word or deed, I ask for their forgiveness. And if anyone has hurt me, knowingly or unknowingly, in thought, in word or deed, to the best of my ability, I offer my forgiveness. Amen.
Beloved poet of Persia. Hafiz lived in the 14th century and was part of the mystical Sufi tradition. Many have been touched by his words, including Emerson, who called Hafiz a poet's poet. Here is one of his works. Go for a walk if it is not too dark. Get some fresh air. Try to smile. Say something kind to a safe-looking stranger if one happens by. Always exercise your heart's knowing. You might as well attempt something real along the path. Take your spouse or lover into your arms the way you did when you first met. Let tenderness pour from your eyes the way the sun gazes warmly on the earth. Play a game with some children. Extend yourself to a friend. Sing a few ribald songs to your pets and plants. Why not let them get drunk and wild? Let's toast. Every rung we've climbed on evolution's ladder, whisper, I love you, to the whole mad world. Let's stop reading about God. We will never understand him. Jump to your feet, wave your fists, threaten and warn the whole universe that your heart can no longer live without real love.
Oh, wow. That was great. The subject today is love, and for tomorrow as well. As a matter of fact, I know of no better topic for us to discuss until we all die. Hafiz wrote over 5,000 poems, and a lot of them, like that one, are about love. As a Sufi, which is the mystical expression of Islam, his great love for God spilled over into a great love for all beings. Tomorrow, of course, is Valentine's Day. And while the Hallmark and Hershey's people have their take on love with their plush toys and candy hearts, so does the church. The love we speak about here in this holy place at this sacred hour is a powerful, transformative force. The Reverend Dr. King taught us that unconditional love, oft misunderstood, oft misinterpreted, so readily dismissed as a weak and cowardly force, has now become an absolute necessity for the survival of all. He defined love as the power which all of the great religions have seen as the supreme unifying principle of life. And as the supreme unifying principle of life, love contains the sum of empathy and desire to understand, compassion, friendship, benevolence, attraction, and reconciliation. So the other day I was in a small group and we were talking about how our families of origin expressed love. Not everyone said the words, but they showed love in 100 different ways. Saying the words, "I love you," didn't start in my own family until my brother and I were in our 30s. And my mother, our mother, was on a liver transplant list. After a lifetime of showing love with gifts and small acts of kindness, we all realized how important it was to actually say, "I love you." The poet Michael Pierce wrote about his father in a piece that begins with these words, "My father got beat, but he never beat me." The poem goes on to describe generations of drinking and abuse that finally stopped because of the power of his father's love. Though he was never able to say the words, the decisions he made in his life in raising his children said all that needed to be said. Here's part of that poem. A quiet man, he put in long hours and never talked about what hurt. My dad stopped that mayhem from ripping through his chest and into the hearts of the ones he loved. One time, I got up the nerve to tell him I loved him, and all he could say was thank you. As children, we start out open to the world, don't we? Open to loving everybody and everything, no exceptions. There's this wonderful story about Babe Ruth and the waning years of his career. Now, by then, the Yankees had traded him to the Braves, and in one of his last games, he struck out at the plate and made several errors that allowed the other team to score 5 runs in just one inning. He walked toward the dugout. His chin was down and he was shaking his head. And from the stands, people were shouting insults and booing and hissing. I'm sure they were throwing things too. And then this miraculous thing happened. A little boy jumped over the railing and he had these tears streaming down his cheeks as he ran out to meet the legendary athlete. And he flung his little arms around Babe's legs and held on tightly. Babe Ruth scooped him up and hugged him and then sat him down again. Patting his head gently, he took his hand and the two of them walked off the field together. We are born open-hearted. We are born able to love without condition, love without exception. We are born knowing how to love everybody until something happens. And it happens to all of us. Disappointment, violation, heartbreak. And then we spend the rest of our lives rediscovering that open-hearted, unconditional love. Now, we're all very different, and so we're all at different places on that path to rediscovery. Some haven't found the path yet, they're still looking for the trailhead. Some have been on and off the path for many, many years. And some have discovered the extraordinary joy and freedom of loving without limits. That's where I want to be one day. That is my spiritual goal. Now, I imagine that some of you may be hearing this gospel, the UU gospel, that all are worthy of love, no exceptions. And maybe you're thinking, well, that's impossible. You can't love everybody. It's not rational. It's reckless. It's dangerous. Yeah, it is. This past December, we lost Bell Hooks. And she wrote extensively on love, reminding us that the practice of love offers no place of safety. The practice of love offers no place of safety. We risk loss, hurt, pain. We risk being acted upon by forces outside of our control. Yes, you're right. It is dangerous. It is dangerous, but it is even more dangerous not to love. Love is the power to see another living being exactly as they are. And this kind of seeing doesn't require sightedness. To love is to see clearly. There was a remarkable Cambodian monk named Mahagosananda, who survived the inhumane conditions of the refugee camps of the Khmer Rouge. In that camp, Mahagosananda opened up a Buddhist temple. The Khmer Rouge camp leaders threatened to kill anyone who would go to that temple. And yet, on the opening day, more than 20,000 people gathered on that dusty square for the opening ceremony. Now remember that these people were forced to become communists with guns pointed to their heads. And these were not whole families, they were remnants of families. An uncle with a niece, a mother with only one of her 3 children. The people had suffered greatly in 8 years of war. After the initial prayers and the chants, Mahagosananda led the people in one of the central teachings of the Buddha, first in Pali and then in Cambodian. Hatred never ceases by hatred, but by love alone is healed. This is an ancient and eternal law. Hatred never ceases by hatred, but by love alone is healed. This is an ancient and eternal law. As he repeated this chant again and again, thousands and thousands of voices joined in. With great emotion, the people knew that this eternal truth was more powerful than the suffering that they had endured. Love, as we speak of in religious communities, is the supreme unifying principle of life that requires us to see the fullness of other beings, to apprehend their inherent dignity, and to know that they are intimately connected to us. Without some kind of intentional spiritual practice, it's very difficult to love this way in this society. And one of the reasons is because there's so much stuff between I and thou. There's my ego and your ego. There's my brokenness and there's your brokenness. There's my fear and your fear. And let's face it, some people are kind of hard to love, aren't they? And sometimes we are hard to love. I am hard to love. The good news is that you can love someone without necessarily enjoying them. You can love and not feel delight or warmth in their presence. You can love and say no to them and make clear boundaries. I mean, human beings can be very difficult, right? Human beings can be frustrating and abusive and harsh and mean, but no one is unlovable. This is the essence of the universalist part of our faith, that no one is beyond the reach of love. I think I have spent enough time with you that I know that there are probably some listening today who may be saying, well, love, yeah, that's fine, but our world is crumbling and there is no amount of love that can save us. And I say that love is the only thing that can save us. For those of you who are spending a lot of time doom scrolling, reading the most dire, alarming stories on the internet, please consider stopping. Consider changing the content of your internet diet and pay more attention to the millions and millions of people who are pointing in the direction of love. After the September 11th attacks, someone asked Mr. Rogers, Fred Rogers, what are we going to tell the children? And he said, tell them to watch The Helpers. Tell them to pay attention to how the people are helping. And so watch videos and listen to podcasts and absorb the art. Read the poetry and the stories by people who have not given up and are still propelled by love. Love of neighbor, love of this earth, love for all of life. So I'll give you one recommendation. This book called All We Can Save, Truth, Courage, and Solutions for the Climate Crisis. I want to thank Ruth Ann for giving me this book. I love it so much. It's a collection of essays and poems and prayers of love and hope for our world. When we feel despair for the world, remember that the power of love rises up through the lives of ordinary people who hear its call and answer it in extraordinary ways. And that includes many, many people in this church community. Later today, you can see some of them in person. Between 12 noon and 2 o'clock, I will be in the parking lot with these pink hearts. And they're for you to write on and tie to our fence. And on these cards, on these pink hearts, you can write your prayers of love. You can write the names of people dear to you. You can write a letter to the earth. You can write prayers of love and thanksgiving. I hope that we can cover the fence with them as a sign that we are open and as a signal to our neighbors that there is love here in this church. So I'll be out there to greet you with hearts and markers. I hope to see a lot of you today between 12 noon and 2. You know, it may take us some time for us to get used to being in this space together. It's going to take a little time for us to get used to worshiping together in person. And so let us be mindful and intentional in all of our gatherings. Let every word, let every action preach our gospel, that all are worthy of love, no exceptions. Whoever you are, whatever the color of your skin, whatever your abilities or challenges, whomever you love, whatever your family looks like, whatever your image of the holy, whether that is the mighty ocean or Buddha or Allah or the infinite universe, all are welcome, all are worthy, all are seen, and all are loved. And of course, that love that is generated in this community, it just keeps growing and growing and widening and expanding. And that love cannot remain by itself in this building. It will spill out and move into the world. And when that love goes out in public, as Cornel West says, then it takes the shape of justice. May it be ever so. Amen.
As we extinguish the chalice, let us say together, we extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again.
And now, as you leave this sacred hour, proclaim to the whole universe that your hearts can no longer live without real love. Go in peace, everyone. Go in love.